Hello ladies, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know who I am, I'm Jen, and this channel is all about motherhood, postpartum, pregnancy, life, fitness, and pretty much really started because of my postpartum experience with my son. I'm super glad you're here. If you haven't already, definitely go back and watch some of my older videos just so you can get a sense of who I am. But I'm really excited about today's topic. Today, we're gonna be talking about honoring your postpartum. I have my cup of coffee from Starbucks. It's the pistachio cream cold brew. It's A1, and my notes about today's stuff. So let's go ahead and get started talking about honoring your postpartum. Today's topic is really geared specifically towards new moms, but I definitely feel like it's great tips that are helpful to remind second time, third time, fourth time moms about when going into your postpartum season. But mainly I'm really talking to new moms because I feel like a lot of these things are things I wish people would have talked to me about during my pregnancy and going into my postpartum experience. I think we spend a lot of our time focused on pregnancy, labor and delivery, preparing the nursery, what things to buy, and at the end of the day, those things are sometimes really minuscule in the scale of what your postpartum experience is going to be like. Labor and delivery is such a small fraction of your pregnancy and motherhood experience, and I think that having these tools and having these conversations with new moms is critical to not only them and their postpartum experience, but our overall understanding about what that season of life looks like for moms. Before we get started with my tips, cheers. I want you to go into this just with the basis and understanding that these conversations that I have with you are really just like a conversation between friends and a mother to a mother. I'm not a certified professional in anything other than just being a mom and my experiences. So definitely seek any professional help and guidance from a professional that is certified in whatever field I'm talking about. But today, these are just really suggestions that I have for new and expecting mothers. I have 5 tips that I'm going to cover, and they're all kind of like general and can be applied to a couple different areas of your postpartum experience. But number 1, I'm going to start with, which I feel really strongly about, is setting boundaries. This could be setting boundaries with your family and friends, with your spouse or significant other. This could be with your workplace. I feel like this is a crucial part to honoring your postpartum season. So when I talk about setting boundaries, I'm talking about a lot of different areas of your postpartum experience. I'm talking about like when you come home from the hospital, how many visitors do you want to have in those first few days? Do you want people holding your baby when they're here, or do you want to really guide that whole process of when is acceptable for people to hold your baby and when not? I think it's really important to let your family and friends and loved ones know what your expectations are, because you are the parent. You are the person that's in charge of this whole experience, and you are the final say, not anyone else. So if you don't want people there for a whole day, let them know it's okay. I want you to come see the baby. I want you to come see me, but we're limiting visitation to 1 to 2 hours. Nothing wrong with telling family and friends with that. And if people don't respect that, that's just a boundary you're going to have to continue to enforce, because unfortunately, sometimes people don't always respect our boundaries, and it takes a lot of continual effort on your behalf and your spouse's behalf to reinforce those boundaries and to stick to them. Another boundary that I really think is important to talk about is breastfeeding. If you're breastfeeding, you set the stage for what you think is acceptable in your home and in your experience. If you are fine with breastfeeding in front of people, let that be known. You don't have to go to another room to breastfeed your baby. People are coming into your space. You do whatever you feel is comfortable. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable being around you when you are breastfeeding, then they can excuse themselves. You set that same boundary when you're out in public, and if you choose to breastfeed in public, that is your choice. And if people are going to make rude remarks or comments, Maybe you think about the things that you say or how you respond to them, but at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You are feeding your child. And also, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you choose to not breastfeed and you choose to formula feed, there's nothing wrong with that either. And if your family gives you backlash or your friends give you backlash, you have to be the one to stand up for yourself and communicate these things. Unfortunately, people closest to us don't always fully understand the situation, and they can make comments that are really hurtful, especially in this season of life. So you just have to be prepared to understand how to respond to them and adjust accordingly and set the stage, set the boundaries for whatever it looks like in regards to setting boundaries with how you're feeding your child. It's really important to set boundaries with your work. If your job is trying to get you to come back to work early and you're not comfortable with that, you really want to take the full amount of time that you have set aside for your maternity leave, then don't let them bully you into coming back. If you can afford to financially stay home with your child for the extent of your maternity leave, they owe that to you. And they will survive this period of time of you being away from your job. If your job is pressuring you about your work and your quality of work when you do go back to work, or how many hours you're putting in, I think it's really important during your pregnancy to have this stuff written out and set in stone with your company, so that when stuff like this happens in the postpartum period, you have documentation that you can go back to. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the rough of the situation, is you have to be able to stand up for yourself. I think a lot of jobs these days are more understanding than they used to be, but we certainly have a long way to go. Another thing that I think is really important in regards to boundaries is saying yes and saying no to plans. If you are in a period where it's a lot for you to leave the house right now and you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you can say no. You don't have to give a reason why you aren't going to make it to those plans. And if you have certain people that you're comfortable being around who understand what stage of life you're in, and you're comfortable making plans with them, but not other friends, that's okay. You don't have to say yes to everyone. And this is coming from a people pleaser. It's very hard to set boundaries, but I think it's one of the most important things to do. Lastly, setting boundaries around sex after pregnancy. I think we all know that the general rule is 4 to 6 weeks based off of the clearance of your midwife or OBGYN. And I think it's really important to set expectations with your spouse or significant other that just because you're cleared physically to engage in sex again doesn't mean that you're mentally ready for that. Postpartum is extremely exhausting, and it requires a lot from you, especially if you're figuring out breastfeeding, you're sleep deprived, and you might just be touched out, and it might take you a little bit more time to get back to that stage of wanting to be intimate. And you also might have physical limitations of a cesarean or tearing that you want to know are fully healed on your terms, not just the doctor's terms, before returning to that. There's nothing wrong with saying no and communicating that your needs right now are not that, and that you would like a little bit more grace in that season of your life. So those are my tips for setting boundaries. I know it can be really hard depending on your personality type. Like I said, I'm a people pleaser, so setting boundaries and sticking to them and enforcing them is not easy at all. But by all means, it's extremely important for you to put yourself first during this time in your life and not care so much about what everybody else wants and focus on what you want. Tip number 2 is taking time to rest. I know that you're not going to get the sleep that you want or need, but I think it's really important to not spend your days trying to do it all. I know this is something that's also really hard for me. I am like a go overachiever. I always have to be doing something. And when Grayson was born, I was trying to do the laundry and dishes and all these things that really didn't need to be done every single day that I felt like I had to do. Your body just went through one of the most incredible changes, and also the most stressful and just altering changes that it will ever go through. You need to rest. You need to take time to sit on the couch all day and just be with your baby and have people cater to you, bring you food, have your family and friends take your older kids out to do activities so that you can just stay at home and rest with your kids. And I know not all these options are possible for every single mom, but I do think that there are resources, even for single moms, to have people come into your home and help you. I know that if you're a part of a church or any kind of small group that gets together, that people are more than willing to help you in those seasons of life. You really just have to accept the help. One of the best things you can do is have somebody start a meal train for you, so that allows you to have that first couple of weeks to rest. Family and friends bring us meals every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for like the first month that we were home, when we had so many leftovers that we pretty much didn't cook like the whole first month that we were home. And that was amazing. I mean, it just saves you so much time. You're not doing as many dishes, and you're just really able to relax and try to get any rest that you can. Tip number 3, seek help when needed. Seek help in little household tasks like I've mentioned. Have a friend come in and do the laundry for you. Have your mom come in and do your dishes like one day a week. Just have somebody that you know come and help you for like 1 or 2 hours around the house and just help you keep up with the little things. Also, think when I'm talking about seeking help, it's not just in those little daily tasks, it's also in the big things that are a part of postpartum. Seeking help with breastfeeding. So if you need the advice of a lactation consultant, seeking out that help, ask your local pediatrician, ask moms in your area who they saw if they had breastfeeding struggles, and start to schedule appointments with those people. If you feel like this season of your life is really difficult and you're having a hard time adjusting, there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist. There are tons of postpartum support groups. There's virtual support groups. Some of them are even free. If you follow Postpartum International, they have free support groups that happen a couple times during the week, all virtual. And you can just share your experiences with people and hear what other people are going through, and just know that you're not alone. If you need a little bit more help than that and you need to see a therapist or you need to be on medication, it is okay. Coming from somebody who had honestly a earthquake shock of a postpartum experience and struggled with postpartum anxiety and depression, I will tell you the number one thing I would go back and tell myself to do differently is to seek out professional help way sooner than I did. There's no shame in what you're going through, and it is very normal to have the thoughts and feelings that you're having, and the best way to get yourself out of that situation is to seek professional help. Tip number 4 is take time for yourself. I know that it seems like in a day after having a baby, you feel like you don't have time to do anything between feeding and getting the baby to sleep and cleaning up the messes after the baby's asleep. It can feel like there's no time in the day for you to even shower. But I'm telling you, if your spouse has time to shower, brush their teeth, eat a meal, you have time to shower, brush your teeth, and eat a meal. Your personal hygiene is not self-care, it is a priority. You need to take care of yourself. If you're a breastfeeding mom and you're not showering every day, you're increasing your chances of getting things like mastitis. You need to be clean and care for yourself. I totally get it. I was the mom who went 2, 3, 4 days without showering because I felt like there was no time in the day for me to do that. And that is so false. Seriously, find time to do the little things that you like to do. If you like to read, find a half an hour out of the day where your spouse can be with the baby and bond with them, or your mom can be with the baby, or a friend can be with the baby, and you can sit and relax. It's okay to do those things. You're not a bad mom. You're probably a better mom when you take that time for yourself than constantly being with the kids and not spending time focusing on the things that you like to do and the things that you enjoy. And self-care, it looks different for everyone. Taking time for yourself looks different for everyone. Part of what I do for myself now in my pregnancy and in my postpartum after that newborn phase was taking time to focus on my health and my wellness and my fitness. For you, that might look like going to brunch with a friend or reading a book or doing a craft. Whatever it is, take time for yourself. You deserve it. Last but not least is tip number 5. Tip number 5 is trusting your motherly instincts. There are going to be 1,000,001 comments and unsolicited advice sent your way during the postpartum period, especially that time immediately after the baby, when you're learning the baby, when the baby is learning the world around them. And what I wish I would have listened to more was myself. Everybody has an opinion about everything. Everybody's experience with their baby and their postpartum is different. And at the end of the day, you know your baby better than anyone else in the whole world. You carried them and grew them for 9 months. You are their mother, and no one else will ever know them like you know them. Advocate for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Don't doubt yourself. If you think something's wrong, there probably is something wrong, and trust your gut. If you are enjoying the way that your baby and you flow through your day, you don't have to change that. Just because somebody says you should put your baby down, just because somebody says you shouldn't be holding them all the time, just because somebody says you need to do this, that, or the other thing, doesn't mean you have to. Seriously, if you like to feed your baby to sleep, feed them to sleep. If you like to hold your baby for every single nap, hold your baby for every single nap. If you want to put your baby down for a nap, you can put your baby down. It is your call as a mother, and you have to listen to, honestly, a lot of times the unsolicited advice of your mother, grandmother, all the people around you that are closest to you that have the best of intentions, but sometimes overstep that boundary. Only that, but I think that bleeds into your experience with your pediatrician or your lactation consultant. While I think it's very important to seek out professional help, I also know that sometimes professionals don't give advice that matches up with your parenting style, and sometimes their feedback might not be exactly the advice that you need to hear. And sometimes it's okay to seek out alternative second opinions. Really find somebody who aligns with your style as a parent and also aligns with what you're looking for as a professional. Because if you feel like you're not being heard, you're gonna have to advocate for you, and you're gonna have to advocate for your baby because no one else is gonna do it. They can't advocate for themselves, and that's really your role as a mother. Now, I just threw a ton of stuff at you. I feel like I do this every time I make a vlog. I hope you found this helpful. If you're a new mom and you're going into your postpartum season, I just want to congratulate you. You did it. Whatever way your baby came into this world, you're an amazing mother. You were made to be their mother, and there's nobody else like you in this world for that baby. You're doing a great job, even on the hard days, even on the days that you just want to quit and give up. You're still an amazing mom, and I'm so proud of you. You're gonna rock this thing. I just know that this part of your life is so fleeting, but also probably one of the biggest imprints that's going to be left on your heart. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't already, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. I can't wait to see you ladies. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye. So a very informal part of this video. This is going to be the end. Give me your go-to coffee suggestions because I spend way too much money at Starbucks. And if you make stuff at home, let me know your tips and tricks because I should probably save money for when this baby gets here and stop spending it all at Starbucks.